Okay. Hello, everyone. Kim, Allie, Stephanie with Flyleaf. Here we are again.
Hi, guys.
Flyleaf talks about stuff where we get to talk about the things that we want to talk about.
Once a week. What do we want to talk about?
Well, we have been talking about cognition.
Fancy word for thought.
Fancy word for thought, and that we have positive and negative cognitions.
True stories. Let's let the children write that down. I think we can all identify with having a thought that feels positive and forward trajectory going, and one that feels painful, whether it be about ourselves or about the world that we live in.
Right.
Yeah, we all have them, right? We all have that I'm not good enough to a degree.
Right.
I don't think anybody walking around doesn't have that, at least at some degree. But I guess it's not until it's a problem that we do something.
Specifically that belief in itself, right? I mean, I tell clients when I'm working with them doing EMDR or brain spotting, especially with EMDR, because we need to know what the negative script is, right? But rare is it that I work with somebody that doesn't have that form of belief, either outright I'm not good enough or some form of it, some variation.
Right. And they can fall in different categories of type things. They can be safety driven. They can be about self or self-worth.
Control.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I'm not good enough thing, and it can bleed into that imposter syndrome that so many people have, where, you know, I can recall getting not so good grades in undergrad school. And then in grad school, got really good grades, but I just thought it was because they liked me. I had to actually work to believe that I was getting good grades because I earned them, because I would tell myself, well, I'm just not smart enough to get these grades, which is a form of that I'm not good enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I'm that same way. Even today, I caught myself in a little bit of that because we got those new Amazon document frames, and I had 3 certificates I had hiding out. Just in like a file folder that needed to get hung up for like a ridiculously long time. And 2 of my clients pointed them out, like, oh, you got new stuff on the wall. And I'm like, yeah, no big deal.
They just give those to everybody.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. I think imposter syndrome is probably one of the biggest things that I see when people come in is, you know, I'm so successful, I'm doing well, but if they only knew this, and this, I wouldn't be successful, or I'm only this successful because of who I know, not what I know. And that's a big one.
I was talking with one of my good friends that I used to work with at the Naval Hospital, and we were talking about that, and this was a couple of years ago, but I said, does it ever go away? Do you ever think that you are a good enough therapist, or, you know, whatever it is? And he goes, yeah, but it takes a while. And I was like, okay, I'll just keep thinking.
You just have to do anything. It'll just happen.
Yeah. It's like at some point you're going to get old enough to like not really give a
Beep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right about
Explicitive.
Well,
negatives. Oh, go ahead.
Well, what I was just going to say is that they live so deeply in us that we can cognitively believe one thing and actually know it's true, but we don't believe that it's true.
So I wonder if we practice, you know, sometimes cognitive dissonance within ourselves.
Right.
Or to ourselves, I guess.
That's beautiful. I've never heard of it put like that, but that is very smart of you, Stephanie.
But to be honest, it just hit me as I'm sitting here listening to our stories, right? And I'm like, oh my God, we totally cognitive dissonance ourselves.
That's a verb now.
Yeah.
Right.
Quit cognitive dissonancing on yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is awesome.
Dissonance is when like 2 things are together, but they don't fit well together. In music, it would be a really wonky sounding chord, or as if we were to all wear like polka dot blouse with a plaid jacket and like striped pants. It's like, this outfit doesn't make sense, but yet here we are.
But here we are.
It would in the 70s.
It would in the 70s, but we're in 2020.
And those beliefs that we have, God, where do we get them from?
They're young beliefs. I always talk about our negative beliefs primarily because that's why people come in, but even our positive beliefs come from a lot of the same source, but we develop them in childhood, so they sound very childlike. So when clients come in and we're talking about their negative thought about themselves or whatever it is, they try to really intellectualize their negative thought. And what it boils down to is, I'm not good enough. But in an effort to sound, like your age, that's just not how we don't speak in 3-word sentences very often. So, maybe it's just, I suck, or maybe it's just, whatever it is, it sounds very childlike. The world's not fair. But it's because it developed as a child, and it's the youngest in age terms, but it's been here the longest. So it's also our oldest.
Right.
So that's why it sticks so good.
Right.
Well, good.
And we think it without even thinking it.
Yeah.
Right.
We know it. That's the
it.
difference, is we know it.
Yeah. Like that I don't necessarily, because it can be so young, that I might not have language for it. But when I feel it in my body, I know what this is, and it does not feel good.
Right. I always talk.
Go ahead.
I always talk about how kids are such little narcissists, right? So the world is all about them, and everything is about them, and it all belongs to them. But they are also responsible for all the negative things that happen in their life, and as well as it being their job to cheer up everybody in their life. So if something bad happens to mom or dad, it's my fault. Or if mom leaves or dad leaves or whatever, it's because I did something wrong. And if I believe that I'm not good enough for my parents, then you go through life doing cognitive dissonancing, and you say I can prove I'm not good enough because it happened again, and it happened again, and it happened again. And so as you're an adult, you have evidence, you have this belief that you're not good enough, but you actually have evidence throughout your life to support that belief.
Right.
And the good things that you might have experienced, that would be like the counter, it's like, yes, but your yes butter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, this is something great that happened to me, but look at all this litany of evidence I have to suggest that I'm not good enough.
And then when you have a kid who gets taught that this isn't the case, it's not your fault mom and dad left, it's not your fault any of that stuff happened, and they know that they're loved and they know that they're good enough, they go through life, and if they have those same experiences, they apply that, it wasn't because I wasn't good enough, it was for something else, and they start looking at the world differently. And so then you build this really resilient kid.
Right.
So it can go either way, but we know some people who, it doesn't mean that they don't take on responsibility for anything, but they got a really good sense of self. And that comes from somebody working with them or doing something right with them and giving them that sense of self.
Right. Well, and sometimes we overtly hear those messages, right? Growing up, that maybe you weren't good enough, or you weren't worthy, or you're unlovable. I mean, sometimes verbally we hear those, and you hear those over and over again, and then you kind of adopt them as your own. And at some point, it didn't even matter who said it, because now you're saying it to yourself.
Right?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a parent thing. It's not parent blaming, because
No.
We've done processing with kids from junk from other kids on the playground. It doesn't
Absolutely.
have to be, it's just that it comes from somewhere, and then for some reason we have these series of events that we latch it onto. And part of it, I think, is because as kids we don't go to people and talk about this stuff. Like, we just kind of sit with it and think, well, that must be true. And by the time you're an adult and you're sitting down talking about it and going, this is what I feel, but I can't believe it, but I do believe it, that it's been there for a long time already.
Well, then if it even gets more ingrained because of maybe, community or faith, sometimes reinforces these false belief sets, right? And so then as an adult, you're kind of scrambling saying, oh my gosh, like, how do I not believe this when I've gotten it from every angle throughout my entire development?
Right. You know where they talk about this? What movie they talk about this in?
What?
Pretty Woman. There's that.
Let's hear it.
There's that scene where Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are laying in bed together, and she was talking about how she used to park cars at WrestleMania, and she waited tables for a while maybe, and it was just like this really rough childhood growing up, and she got all these kind of negative messages. I'm assuming she alluded to them, and he said something really kind to her, and she goes, "The bad stuff is easier to believe." So
Wow, you've seen that movie a couple times. That's awesome.
I love that movie.
I do. But you're
I was
right. That's
thinking
exactly
the
what
same
that is.
thing. Like, I have never heard anybody, I think, get so detailed about a poignant moment in Pretty Woman. Like,
Well, maybe I resonate with her in that I'm an imposter, you know, that like if you really knew me, you know, I don't really resonate with her. I don't know. It was a cool scene, you know, because she was like,
Like, I'm not over.
her hair down and it was really curly and she was just really this moment of vulnerability, sharing her like tragic backstory with her like rich boyfriend person.
Yeah,
hey, embrace your fandom of Pretty Woman. It is all good.
it's perfectly
I
fine.
used to play it on TNT all the time. It was scandalous when I was a teenager. Like, let me have my joy.
I love it. Have all of it.
We all have our ones that we stop on if they come on. We always
Oh,
stop on, no
absolutely.
matter how stupid it is. We watch.
Right.
Not that Pretty Woman is stupid, but
Right.
you know, the ones I watch usually are.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if we thought about it long enough, Princess Bride would have cognitive dissonance in it too.
Love me some.
Love
Princess
that
Bride.
movie.
Me too.
Love it.
Love it.
Love that movie.
One of my favorite quotes, like with Francine Shapiro in her EMDR book, is that she says, just because you think something for a long time doesn't make it true.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she's right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's when we're talking to our clients and they're going, well, I know I'm a good person, or I know I'm smart, or I know I'm whatever it is, and I go, but do you believe it? And they go, yeah, I believe it. And then I do the, you know, Allie would go, well, what about this guy right here?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm super smart, or I'm super great, or I'm really successful. Yeah, but you're not really.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that yeah, but is the,
Oh yeah, you call them the yes butters.
I do call them the yes.
I call it the internal critic. Allie, do you have a name for it?
I just call it the ick.
Yeah.
It's that moment of like, oh, I'm almost there. You know, a positive cognition should feel as natural as your own blood running through you, where you can feel it on the bottom of your feet and the top of your head and everywhere in between. And it's just as true as the sky is blue.
So when people come in for therapy, and it doesn't matter what therapy it is, I don't care why, they're coming in the door normally because there's some negative cognition that's stopping them from doing the things that they want to do and living their best life and being their authentic self. Somewhere along the line, there's a negative cognition. And we always talk about talk therapy being a way to assimilate a new cognition, right? I can assimilate a positive cognition because I can know something is different through the evidence that I'm being shown and through the work I do in talk therapy, but I'm not buying it. So I'm not believing it, but I can live my life fully and assimilate it. But for some people that's not enough,
right?
Because that doubting part of you still lives. And so what do we do for that part, ladies?
A lot of EMDR and brain spotting.
Right.
We get in that body.
Get in there. Gently, but it might feel like a jolt to the system because these are cognitions that you might have carried around from the time that you had a thought, either overtly or covertly. So it can feel like looking at the world and experiencing the world through a new lens, treating yourself in a different way.
And getting in there and assessing, like, how long, how old does it feel, which you have alluded to several times before, Allie, when we're doing these, about how we use our nesting dolls, right? And like, what are the different ages that you see, and what were the messages, what were the developmental stages going on, what losses did you have, what gains did you have? Like, talk to us about this person.
Right. And the beauty part of doing the body work is that the yes but guy just stops. Because he does believe it. And then when you actually say, I know I'm a good person, you're living, that is truly where you want to be authentically. So when the first time I did EMDR, that I had it done to me, I felt this way. The way I'm going to describe was that talk therapy gets you to a certain place, and then EMDR gets you over that hump to the next place.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, talk therapy is enough because whatever that negative thing is, it's not screaming loud. It's just there and it's present and you can assimilate and be fine. And then for some people, they need more.
And when I first did EMDR, I mean, it was a present day anxiety for me with a certain belief, right? Which took me all the way back in my processing to childhood of when that belief developed, that I was like, holy crap, I had no idea this even linked up. Like,
right. Mm-hmm.
And same with brain spotting. It wasn't a belief, but it was the feeling state associated with what was going on.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that our brain holds on to all of that negative stuff in the back of our mind, right, in our subconscious. And so we're holding on to it, but we don't realize we are. We just pull it up when we need it or act on it impulsively or instinctively because we don't consciously think about it. And then getting that and purging that part of your brain out and getting it to see that it doesn't have to, that's not protecting us anymore. Right. It was held there to protect us and keep us safe, but we no longer need it. And giving your body and your brain permission to make room for new things is a really beautiful thing.
It is.
And believing a new cognition that you can bring up almost as an affirmation when you're done doing the hard work is like a friendly reminder of what is now true. That might not have always been.
So what do you see as a challenge once somebody has done that work and lost that negative cognition about themselves? And of course, what they don't understand in the moment is that moving forward, their behaviors are going to be different. Their boundaries are going to be different. Some of their relationships are going to be different. What do you see as some of the challenges that come up when somebody does actually do that work?
I tell people, I'm like, when you get healthy or start living authentically, there is a possibility that people need you to show up the way that they need you to show up. And so it might be incongruent between you and how your old peeps roll together. Like you might lose some friends. They might not like you advocating for yourself, or your spouse might not like it, but you were built for authenticity.
Yeah. Interpersonal, I think, where the biggest potentiality of I feel something new here is, but also a little bit of fear of what if this happens again? What if this thought that I've crushed comes back? It feels okay now, but what if?
Right.
What do you tell people when they tell you that?
Look how much work you've done to get to where you are right now. Don't you believe that you could handle this again? Should you have to?
And I think part of it is letting them see that they're going to recollect evidence, right? So if we're collecting evidence to support my negative belief my whole life, and then I go, wait a minute, that wasn't true. And then my brain just kind of goes, wait, if that wasn't true, then that wasn't true, then that wasn't true, then that wasn't true. And I've been evidence collecting my past. When I go forward, every time that I successfully navigate something in a way that I want to, then I'm adding to that evidence and building that resilience. So it actually gets stronger and stronger and stronger every time.
Conversely, when you show up differently and authentically and you're believing those beliefs of the true self and often, like living your best life, there are also going to be those that celebrate you, right? Because they have seen you as that authentic, true being the entire time. And they have just been waiting for you to see them yourself, to see you yourself.
Yep.
Richard Gere.
Huh?
It's a Richard Gere to your Julia Roberts, where they've already held you in that light.
Yes.
That's so sweet.
That's beautiful.
How do you even go on talking about this topic after talking about Julia Roberts and Richard Gere having in that moment? Exactly. Yes, you don't.
You don't. Yeah, we're like, huh?
It was such a beautiful moment.
It was. Trigger warning on that movie, though. It has to do with some pretty adult themes. So if you haven't seen it and you're curious, read the description before you indulge.
Any other final thoughts on beliefs, both positive, negative?
I don't know.
Just listen to your inner voice. Sometimes it's your own. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. But if our inner voice is saying, if we do something and our inner voice tells us we're stupid or we suck, then listen to it and know that you don't have to listen to you don't have to beat yourself up, right?
Or check it in with somebody, right? Like, I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to suck at this or that I am really unlovable, and go ahead and take a sample of people and see how many actually say true.
How many times have we done that up in here?
Huh?
How many times what?
Have we done that, like, collectively? Like,
I do that with you guys all the time.
We all do.
Yeah.
I did have a thought and now it's gone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I took it.
We are. It shot me a little thing that says we're running out of time. So.
Okay, well, there you go.
if we have final thoughts on cognitions and challenging them and EMDR and brain spotting and positive and negative belief systems, what would they be?
What would they be?
Oh, a lot of things.
Um,
I guess it would be that they're normal and natural, but you have to determine at what point do they create enough distress that you need to do something different about it, because
Yeah.
sometimes you can't just talk yourself out of these negative cognitions or talk yourself into believing the positive. And just know that there are modalities out there that are helpful, EMDR and brain spotting being two of our favorites.
I tell people, if you had somebody walking behind you whispering in your ear all day going, you suck, you're not good enough, you're stupid, what would you say to that person? Wouldn't you be like, get away from me? Like, make them go away. But we do that to ourselves, and that seems to be okay. And there's ways therapeutically that you can make that voice silence, and you don't have to walk around with somebody whispering in your ear all of those negative things about yourself.
All right. How do you find us?
Who wants to practice?
And this will be you, Allie. Your jam.
Well, first off, thank you guys for watching and spending some more time with us. I hope you found a little joy nugget or learned something new that you can take with you.
Humor.
Joy nugget.
Nuggets, and I love joy, so this is great.
Trust nuggets and joy nuggets.
All the nuggets. So you can find us on the internet at flyleafcounseling.com. We are on YouTube by searching for Flyleaf Counseling in the search bar, on Instagram at Flyleaf_counseling, and on Facebook by searching for Flyleaf Counseling.
And there we have it.
There we go. Until next week.
Bye.
See ya.